Likewise, what mathematical laws? Good evening. It is with great joy that we begin another program. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come into your home today with these questions. Why are you suffering like this? What do we need to be happy? This life is so short, right? Why do we waste the opportunity to be fulfilled, happy men and women? It's good, right, when we have the opportunity to hear something that unsettles us. We hear many things every day, but not everything unsettles us. Suddenly, you realize that word, it fits inside you and begins to cause a good disorder. This is the revolution. What can the verb do in our lives? I, personally, like to look for words that unsettle me. I always have a book with me, because the book is an opportunity one have to be unsettled. I always like to listen to good music. Why? The word that reaches my ear through a sung voice has a power to unsettle me, and that's how it happened to me. A very simple lyric, but good to be heard. With a few questions, it's a reflection that makes, let's have the courage to enter some rooms in our house that everyday life usually doesn't take us. A slightly deeper look that makes us break the surface of what we're used to living. Yes, because the monotony of life is precisely us staying in the same room all the time. We may get used to some rooms in our lives and spend our entire lives there, believing that our home consists of those rooms. In emotional life, it is like this. In intellectual life, I remember that as a teacher, the great challenge was to uninstall those who already thought they already knew. Yes, we already know about many things, but every now and then we come into contact with another way of seeing what we already know, in contact with the knowledge about what we already know, and suddenly, we are surprised by something new about what we already thought we knew everything about. Knowledge is dynamic. It is a constant restructuring movement. Experts say that every time we learn something new, it is as if our brain is positively wounded. And knowledge, it establishes itself as we go on hurting. That we are creating new synapses, right? We are creating within our brain a structure that will take us to go forward in that reflection. In that knowledge, we will leave our comfort zone, and we will, in this interval, live in the uninstall, right? This uninstalling. The uninstallation, which is so positive in the life of those who want to grow. So, a well-asked question at the right time has the power to die. To guide our paths, it takes us out of the sameness. It makes us have the conditions. To enter rooms that until then we were not used to visiting. This song talks about our life. What do we need to be happy? We talk all the time about this so-called happiness. We follow people all the time in an attempt to be happy. Our social networks, right? So many people posting what makes them happy, and even lying about what makes us happy. We have so many searches. Sometimes you try to be happy through your work. Yes, you work because you want to achieve something that makes you happy. You date. And you try to be happy through this relationship. Have you ever married? I think every human being tries to be happy in this marriage. Even if they're not very aware of it, they're always trying to be happy, even when they make mistakes. Even when we make mistakes, are we somehow trying to be happy? But the problem is when we don't know, when we're not clear about what truly makes us happy. I like to understand happiness a little more deeply. It may be that the word happiness is very empty of meaning. It may be that it has become very empty. For our days, have you ever heard me talk here about human fulfillment, which is precisely this adaptation we make of everything we can and cannot? Yes, because a fulfilled human being is one who has already become aware of everything they can, of everything they cannot, and from this power and not being able, a space of satisfaction is created. It is the satisfaction of being who they are, of doing what they do, of working in what they work, of studying what they study, of living with those they live with. And we don't always achieve it within this fulfillment. Do only what pleases us. So we need to be constantly articulating the reality that surrounds us. I like to call it our ambiences. And from these ambiences, we honestly seek to be in the place we really should be. This life is so short, right? Why do we waste the opportunity to be fulfilled men and women, fulfilled and happy? Because this is God's desire for us. Conversion is this. It is you identifying yourself in the structure of your happy data, that this is God's desire for us. Conversion is this. Do you identify yourself in the structure of your life today? Is there anything that is being an obstacle to your human fulfillment? God has no interest that you become an unhappy person. Unhappiness is not a project of God for our life. That is why in the project He has for each one of us. He never removes the obstacles, because in the obstacles we find the strength to be able to achieve what we so much desire. Yes, we need to overcome the obstacles daily that deprive us of living, this happiness, this human fulfillment. And the song, she asks questions that go right to the heart of these questions. What makes us happy? What makes us fulfilled? And from these questions, we begin to deny, because we lie to ourselves. How many times I meet people, I identify this in myself. A lying structure around fulfillment. Do we pretend that we are? We pretend that we are fulfilled. We pretend that we know what needs to be done. We often remain on the surface of things, of situations, and we don't even have the courage to touch what really needs to be touched for our lives to be better. Personally, people like to think that God is always favorable, that my experience with you is always favorable to me. Never, never, never. I could understand that my experience with God could be an obstacle to my human fulfillment. God wants the best for me. And for a long time, I've been tearing that away from me, Some misunderstandings that God wanted my suffering, for example. No, God doesn't want our suffering. We suffer because we are human. It's part of our condition. But it's very petty for us to think that God is commanding that suffering for us. Then there's no need to command it. Suffering is there. It's on the path of everyone who wants to live well. In the same way, He also cannot free us from this suffering, because it's part of life. Suffering is part of life. What does He assure us with His presence? So, when I look at the structure of my life, what I need to renounce today, I am seeing a reality that is favorable to my growth. I need to identify what, today in the structure of my life, is representing an obstacle to my fulfillment. You may identify a friendship, for example. A pseudo-friendship is a false friendship, a collegiality that has been an obstacle to your spiritual, emotional, and human growth. You may be under the influence of someone who doesn't wish you well. That is they're addicted to what it destroys. Or is it they're taking away, in a context of fidelity to oneself? Yes, we can often become addicted to people who do us harm. And suddenly, the enemy undermines our courage and our dispositions, and we move away from the path that God wants for us. I say again that it is a path of fulfillment. Is it a path of happiness? So, it requires a lot of intellectual honesty. We are talking here about putting intelligence to work. What is in the structure of my life today? It is an obstacle to my fulfillment. I remember that once I met a girl who was going to college to please her mother, and she told me this. She had the courage to say it. I asked her, "What do you study?" She said, "Architecture." "And do you like architecture?" "I'm not doing it because my mother wants me to." I thought that was very cruel, right? An architecture degree lasts 5 years in a lifetime. Doing the opposite of what you intend to do to please your mother. Something is wrong with this relationship. Just like I saw, many people study law because their father was a lawyer, and they followed the tradition even if it didn't fulfill them. How many people have I met studying law? Not because they want to be lawyers, but because they wanted to provide public service in a public service exam for a public service. And then you asked, but do you identify with public service? It's not just for stability. That may seem like it. It's nice in the eyes of some. But this is truly absurd in the eyes of those who truly want to live their personal truth. Can stability represent something good in the minds of our parents who want to see us stable? It's natural that you want your child to be stable. But does this stability come at a cost? His joy. Is it worth it? If you reach this stability, you will have to kill all the dreams you have inside you. Is it fair? Is it just because we desire it with all the strength of our heart, of our understanding, to control the lives of those we love because we think that control is love? Is it fair? In the name of this control, we condemn our own. We condemn our children. There is a stability that does not fulfill, that does not make happy. These were the questions I asked the girl and the mother. And fortunately, they came to the understanding that it was not so, my friends. It's never too late for us to change the structure of our lives, to change the course. Just as Jesus wasn't afraid to change the lives of those who passed by him. Jesus knew all of this much more deeply than we do today. And look, we already have over 2,000 years of history. We've evolved a lot as humanity. Psychological sciences have helped us a lot to understand the human dimension of this realization. Isn't that right? So, we're already aided by many sciences that Jesus didn't have at that time. All of them corroborate Jesus' stance of putting the person on the right path. Will you live what you need to live? Don't waste time with conflicts that aren't yours. Have the courage to enter the rooms of your house, of your life, and discover what questions need to be asked today so that your life has quality. Don't be afraid of questioning. Much better than living with false answers is having the right question. False answers don't fulfill us. Can they fulfill your father, your mother? But do you think? Is it fair? Compromising your life to please someone? Isn't that evangelical? Obeying means listening with the other, and not just listening to, do I come with him? And it may be that part that needs to obey. The moment you listen with the one who is proposing that must be obeyed, I came to the conclusion that the clarification, the lucidity is in the most fragile part. Just let the truth come to light. Sometimes, in your eagerness to make your child obey, you dictate a rule. That doesn't involve listening with him. You'll do it like this. That's it, and that's it. Listen to your child's heart. 11 know what his aptitudes are. It is not fair to impose on him a burden that God does not impose. God placed in him a way of being, a way of living, of thinking, of feeling. It is necessary that we have respect for the other, that we walk with him. Of course, I am not telling you to give up the authority you have. On the contrary, true authority is that which makes us listen with another, that which makes us think with another, feel with another. Will we be better? Much better. A much better authority. If we learn to listen with, will we be more qualified authorities? If we develop or sharpen our sensitivity to hear with the other what needs to be heard. Just like me, I also have no way. Living my questions in solitude, I am always listening with someone by my side. Yes, these phases of my life, music that continues to bother me, I listen to it in the plural. Other people also live these conflicts with me. With them, I share. And this sharing helps me to realize what in me needs to be better qualified. Equalizer record. What needs to be equalized so that I am better, more harmonious, more sincere, more honest, and when I am listening with other questions, what really matters in my day-to-day. God has the opportunity to speak more. Yes, because God speaks in us. When our truth comes to surface, when we are not afraid of the question that needs to be asked, then run away from them. We grow a lot when we are challenged, much more than when we are flattered. 12. When we accept the provocation of life itself. Do you know how life provokes us with our discomfort? That's why it is so dangerous to take medicine for sadness. Unless you have been diagnosed with a chemical depression. Is that substance missing? Yes, because our joy depends on substances. Right? We are chemists. We are physicists. This physical here, in order to function, has to have some substance inside working. Yes, but generally when sadness arrives and we numb it with a pill, we lost a happy opportunity to discover what bothered us. So, people, doesn't it change what bothers us? You just judge pills about your sadness. And that's why it doesn't solve it. It just goes on, from one day to the next, judging the conflict going forward, when in fact, what would solve it? That would remove the need for the pill. It's a confrontation, a change of the pieces on the board. How many people are healed when they give up a job, for example, when they give up that job to earn less, but work in something they like, while we end our conflict, when we end the relationship? Yes, but suffer? That's all. But at least they are suffering to heal. How many people resolve their sadness, their anguish, when they are able to put people in the right places, when you shield your heart so that it is not the target of the other's lack of love? How many people improve Heal when they are able to suspend their enrollment in college and say, "That's not what I want for myself." It doesn't heal when we look at them and ask, what really matters? What do they like? And what would they like to do with their lives? And you also grow when it's something you don't want it to be. And you, in an exercise of love, are you able to understand what the other likes so much? We leave our world. We hurt this love is capable of wanting to understand what the other likes so much. We leave our world. We hurt what we are accustomed to take a step with another, always hand in hand. Why do we never make mistakes, my people, when we walk hand in hand? We never make mistakes when we hold the hand of those we love.